we're just going to dive into how to rethink the way you market your SaaS product. And one thing I promise you in this webinar, it's worth the wait in the sense that it's going to be completely actionable. And so what I want you to get out of this is to understand how people buy your product, and not just understanding the why behind it, but also how you can understand for yourself why people buy your SaaS product. And if you haven't heard already, I'm going to teach you how to do switch interviews. And these are by far my favorite interviews out there because they are like your marketing superpower of an interview, because you can understand why people buy your product, what are the emotional and social considerations that go into buying your product, and so many other cool things. And also how you can apply the jobs to be done framework across your entire marketing strategy. So I'll give you some good ideas on that. And throughout this webinar, there's 4 free resources, which what I'll do right now is I just uploaded the slides to SlideShare. So I will share those with you in the chat, if I can figure that out real quick. And or you can type in rethink the way you market your SaaS product in SlideShare. Let's just see real quick. There's Q&A, perfect. Or no, chat. Okay, there is the slides, just put them in there, and let's dive in. So here we are. So who am I talking? Why was I asked to present here on this webinar? So my background is in B2B SaaS, and I've worked with some really cool companies such as Vidyard.com to build growth engines for them. And it started off building the more traditional growth engines we know as marketing qualified leads. And then I found this other growth engine that was way cooler, in my opinion, way better at growing companies and a lot more efficient, which is the product-led approach to growing a business. And so as soon as I found that, I was sold, because it was really, really exciting for me. And I could see how quickly you could build demand for a product without even needing this huge, expensive sales team. So I actually created my own company to do just that. And one of my hobbies is actually teaching internet marketing at Canada's top polytechnic college. And that to me is super fun. And this is actually the first time I've been teaching online for a webinar. So forgive the technical problems and some other things. I'll try and make it up to you. And if you do want to connect, or there's any other questions that you have, feel free to just connect on LinkedIn or even Twitter. I'm always happy to chat. And now I have 2 questions for you, for those of you that are still on this call. First one is, where are you located? And how many of you know what Jobs to be Done framework is? Just type yes or no and location. And I want to see in the comment section. Give you a couple seconds for that. Tino, no. Thank you, Emmett. Okay, so we're just gonna go on for the next part. And actually there was a couple other people. Yep. Westlake, California, Netherlands, no. Awesome, thank you, Eric, Pauline, Eduardo, Art. Yes, perfect, Ben. Awesome, you guys are from all over the world. This is perfect. And so what I'm gonna do for those of you that said no to the jobs to be done approach is I'm just gonna share the definition with you. So jobs to be done is a pain that needs to be solved, and it's product agnostic and does not change over time. And so I'm gonna pause here for a second. I'm gonna use my loud voice. So it's, oh, it didn't do it. It's product agnostic. And so if we go back to this definition of what a job to be done is, it is really a pain that needs to be solved. And so people will solve that pain in any number of ways. And so it's not necessarily even limited to a product. We could be solving this with the service or any other means of this. So we're gonna dive into a couple of examples to really flush this out so you can understand what this is in an everyday scenario, as well as for your SaaS product. And so what this really is the difference between jobs to be done approach and the more traditional one is, well, jobs to be done focuses on these situations that drive the need for us to hire a job. And so we hire, excuse my voice, a product or service to get a specific job done. And so what that often looks like in our day-to-day lives is it's actually not too sad whenever we fire a product or a service, because we're often doing it because there's something better, more convenient, more efficient, more effective for us to utilize in our lives to basically upgrade ourselves. And so it's usually pretty exciting. And so one example here is really different than the more traditional approach in marketing that you're probably familiar with, which is personas. And so this is where jobs to be done personas just do not jive. And I'm not going to dive too much into it, but just to give you a little snippet, then we can dive into how to apply this into your business. So will I buy Trident gum because I fit into the persona, which is, let's say this is a persona of Trident. And so although I fit into the demographics, I love Silicon Valley as a TV show, woo, and a couple other things, absolutely not. Just because I'm, in that age bracket, my job title is, marketing scientist, it does not mean anything that I am going to buy that specific piece of gum. So the big difference here between jobs to be done approach, traditional, think about the jobs to be done is you're looking for those situations, like what causes someone to get rattled up and to really want to solve that specific pain point. Whereas with correlation, we're looking at like what job title is very specific to this kind of person who might buy our product. And so you're really just looking for like percentiles when it comes down to correlations. And to further prove my point, in the slide share, definitely check out this link. There's some really fun correlations just to kind of show you how far off some of these correlations are. And so to wrap it up, the situations, they drive change, not the job titles. And so we're going to go through the one example with the Trident gum just to give you an idea of what this looks like in our everyday lives. So last Friday, I was working on this presentation in one of my favorite cafes. And so I got there in the afternoon and I was feeling like the afternoon little slump in energy. And so I got 2 coffees. And so I was plowing away at this webinar and then 5:18 rolled around. And so by the time I got to 5:18, I was just like, I can't work anymore. I'm like mentally exhausted. And so I decided, well, I'll just walk home. It's a nice day out. And so started walking home. And then 2 minutes into walking home, I feel my phone in my pocket going like vibrating. And 5:20, I see dinner date with Catherine, who's my girlfriend. And so I was like, shoot, I completely forgot. That was my situation. And so the place I was going to was 5 minutes away. So I knew if I left, since it was 5:20 now, I could still get there for 5:30, be on time. Everything would be great. But there would be the issue that my breath smelled really bad. And so what ended up being my situation was I had to go to a convenience store to, hire Trident gum to make my breath smell minty fresh. And so that was the situation. And so if I asked you, like, why did I buy the gum? I would at least argue a lot of you would probably lean on the side of, well, Wes bought the gum because he wanted his breath to smell fresh, or he didn't want it to smell bad. And so that's often where a lot of marketers think initially of like, why do people buy our product? It's for the functional reason. And so if we dive into this a little bit further, we can see that there is the functional job. So, okay, I wanted my breath to smell minty fresh. And then there's the emotional job. Well, I wanted the peace of mind that my breath didn't smell bad. And then the social job. Well, I didn't want my date to stop, talking to me because it smelled like a sewer or something really bad. And so when we're buying products, we need to think about what are the functional, the emotional, and the social jobs that we hire products for. And so excellent marketers, they know how we can employ each of these jobs when hiring and even firing products in our lives. And so before we dive into SaaS and how this is all very applicable, I just want to dive into one more example. And so the first part is just diving into the Snuggie. And so when we look at the Snuggie, there's a lot of reasons why people buy the Snuggies, but the first one is the functional. If we even just look at the packaging, we can see, well, okay, keeps you warm, keeps your hands free. It's one size fits all and machine washable. It's pretty cool in that part. Some might even argue this thing is revolutionary. And so then we can dive a little bit deeper into this and see the more emotional jobs. And so, well, it gives you that the peace of mind that you're in like this cocoon of warmth. And you can also reduce your hydro bill and feel good about that. And then the social job, this one took a lot of thinking about for me since I'm not their demographic, but well, I guess you could relate to others about how comfortable it is and form bonds that way. So when we're thinking about any product and even the next product you buy, I want you to at least start thinking about what are those functional, emotional, and social jobs you hire products for, because most amateur or beginner marketers, they kind of start and finish at the functional job. And there's so much more and many more reasons why people actually buy specific products. And so how do you understand these 3 jobs for your SaaS business? That is what we're going to be talking about now, and how to actually apply this and not just take guesses like what I'm doing here for the emotional and social jobs. We're going to be doing hardcore research and figuring out how to understand this for your own SaaS business. And so, question. I want to know, how many of you work at a SaaS business, and what is your job title? I'll just give you about 30 seconds to let me know. Okay, so we got senior digital marketer, Ben. That's awesome. And okay, demand gen. Awesome. Paulin, Ralph, founder. Okay, perfect. Got a really good mix here. And so what I want to go into is, which product would you buy? This is a super fun game I love. And so you can go to these URLs. You don't have to, because I have the main screenshots, but if you fancy it, you can check them out. And so the first product we're going to look at is user like. And so if we look at this one right here, I want us to all do the 5-second test. So tell me, what do you see in the first 5 seconds? And so just tell me in the chat box. Okay, yeah, so some of you see the laptop. Thanks, Camille. Chats, live chat. All right, so in this one, oops, a lot of people will probably see the live chat software for website or mobile support, as well as the image. But what really sticks out in terms of when you're trying to understand what this page is about, you'll see, okay, there's the live chat software for website and mobile support. And so we'll leave it at that and just say, that's what the page is about for us right now. We're going to just be skimming this page and trying to understand what they are selling us. And now option number 2. So this is Intercom, and we can see a new and better way to acquire, engage, and retain customers. And so take a good look at both of those pages once more, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions about them. So the first question is, what pain point does user like solve for? Let me know in the chat box. Yeah, all right, definitely agree. Very odd color schemes for some of them. Okay, yes, so the main pain point that user like solves for is live chat. Interesting. Okay, now That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So I'm glad that was the response there. Now for Intercom. So I'm going to read it again. Just a new and better way to acquire, engage, retain customers. And what pain point does Intercom solve for? Let me know. Hopefully I didn't give it away. Okay, community client acquisition. Anyone else want to take a stab at it? Okay, Eric, innovative way of communicating. Eduardo, inability attracting, engaging customers. Art, mobile and desktop. Interesting. Okay. And so if we go back here, one of the main differences is, well, the first one for user-like is you have the live chat software for website and mobile support. So the pain point, like a lot of you mentioned, is live chat. But what does live chat really do? And so if we go to the Intercom example, you might not even know that they're selling live chat software right off the bat. And that's very, very intentional, because if we go into the next question, like Intercom is competing on solving the pain, which in this case, if we go back, is acquiring, engaging, retaining customers. That's what Intercom really cares about. Even if you go to their products, all of them focus on acquiring, engaging, retaining customers. Whereas if we go back to live chat software for software, website, and mobile support, it's like, well, yeah, I understand it's live chat software. And if you've read the subtext below, you can understand, well, I guess you can help them whenever it helps you. But like, are you trying to engage or acquire, retain those customers? And how does that impact you and solve your main pain point? And so user like on my scale, 0 to 10, it fails. And whereas Intercom really cuts through the noise and just says, this is the pain point we solve. We just happen to do it through live chat software. So it's a really big difference. And so if we come back to this main definition of a job to be done, well, we can see that it's a pain that needs to be solved. And so Intercom at least recognizes that it's product agnostic. And so you need to innovate on the pain point that people are struggling with in their business, not your product, not in the live chat software space. And so once again, it's product agnostic. And so when we look at what are Intercom's competitors in this space, well, it could be email, it could be actual like snail mail, it could be any number of ways that you try to acquire, engage, and retain customers. So that really broadens up the way that people can solve that specific problem. And so when we are going to dive into the research process that I use, you'll be able to see what are some of those competitors you might have never thought about in your space. And so let's actually dive into this and go through the 4 steps of how to apply jobs to be done to your business. So if we look at these, it's really not too bad. There's just 4 steps. First one is sending those emails out. That one's the easiest one. I like to start off with those. And then actually doing the switch interviews. I'm so excited to tell you how to do those switch interviews, because I imagine you will get some pretty cool results from them. And then once again, if you do those switch interviews and you get those amazing conversations, but you don't actually know how to extract those insights, understand the driving forces behind what really brought someone to that emotional state where they're like, this situation sucks. I need to solve it for whether it's my business or my personal life. And then actually putting this into action for your specific business. And so I today decided I'd create a little bit of a challenge for you, the challenge. And so this one is going to go out to any one of you who can go through each of these 4 steps and apply them to your business. The first one, who reaches out to me, I am going to give you a free trial audit, or if you don't have a free trial, just a website audit. It's valued at $3.99. And so if you want to take a quick look of what's all entailed, there's a link below. But I want to really try and just motivate you to take action on this, because this is one of those webinars I hope you can take away a lot of stuff and actually learn something and have the resources to apply to your business immediately. So first one is send those emails. The email's pre-made for you. So there really shouldn't be too many excuses. Just send it to 10 recent customers. And so the reason why I want you to pick on the recent customers is because these people have the most valuable insights for your business a lot of times in terms of what made them switch to your product, what was that product experience like, and what were some of those motivations and that situation that drove them to really look at what their current situation was and say, I want to aspire to solve this in a much better way. This isn't good enough for me anymore. And so these people often can be frustrated about their previous problem. And so with the switch interviews that you'll do after, you'll understand a lot of those core emotions. And you will learn how to actually apply those soon. So second step, almost halfway there, is how to do switch interviews. And first off, I kind of mentioned what switch interviews are a couple of times now, so I won't dive too much into it, but it's really just understanding the core switching power of why people decide your product is going to solve that main pain that's really frustrating them. And so I am an introvert. And so some things like even this or talking to customers when you don't know what you're really talking about can be scary. Like you can sometimes want to do something like as crazy as this. So I am going to make this as easy and painless for you as possible by giving you all the questions you need to ask and hopefully guiding you through the process in just this whole webinar. And so why you do this, to give you all the reasons of why I highly, highly recommend doing the switch interviews for your recent customers, is that you understand that core consideration set of why people are thinking about your product and why they should actually solve their problem. And then the core emotional and social jobs. And at the beginning of this webinar, I talked about Trident gum. And so when we looked at the first reason, it was, well, I wanted my breath to smell good. And so a lot of marketers, they definitely think that they're selling the functional elements of their product. But when we start doing the switch interviews, you start hearing the stories and the situations where people were very, very frustrated and they wanted to change. And so once you understand those jobs of why people hired your product, it's so much easier to not just advertise, but market, get people interested in your product, and even make the sale because they look at you and what you're saying to them and say, they get me. It's not just like, I'm not just buying live chat software. I'm struggling with how to acquire, retain, and engage my customers. And so that's what creates powerful SaaS products. And then the last one's really just understanding those core situations where it makes people want to change, get frustrated. And so that's always a good thing sometimes. And so to just rehash what we talked about at the beginning, we encounter situations that drive the need for a job in our lives, that we need to hire something to get the job done better, more effectively, more conveniently, or even more efficiently. And so that's what we're really trying to get at here. And so what I'm going to do is just dive into the questions here. So can everyone just let me know if they have access to this? If not, I can send it to you. Let's just see right here. If not, I sent you the link over there. Please resend. Got it, Camille. I think I beat you to it. Too fast. All right. So, all right. If you can see this, I see a couple people on there. And so I'm just going to dive right in. So the first couple questions I ask here really just dive into the point of purchase. And so when it comes to SaaS products, these questions aren't necessarily too revealing. They're really easy to respond to. And that's really intentional. Just seeing. Okay, got it. Perfect. All right. And so these are just the easy questions to open up the conversation. And you might find something interesting like, when did you purchase the product? And if you're selling something like insurance software, you might find it's a very specific time of the year. But then when it comes down to finding the first thought, that is 100% about that situation that drove people to understand that this isn't working for me. And you can understand like whether it was this deadline or maybe a specific event or a set of specific events that drove someone to this like infuriating place in their minds where they're saying, I got to fix this. This isn't good enough for me anymore. And so then it comes down to just the consideration set. And so like, why were they trying to do this? Were they trying to accomplish something? What was that a better life that they envisioned for themselves? And then the last one is, I'm just getting a chat, so I'll check that here. Send it later on because I don't know how to get the link. Yeah, I can try resending the link. Maybe the sharing settings are off. I'll just pull that up real quick. Yeah, no, that's anyone can view. All right, third time's a charm. Let's see if that's working. If not, I can definitely send it all to you later, and it should be in the core webinar slide too. But yeah, that's weird that it doesn't show up. Oh, I'm such a rookie here. Sorry, guys. I was sending it to all panelists. Man, yay, there we go. Yay, now people are joining. I'm so sorry about that. Rookie move, Wes. Okay, there we go. Perfect. And so the last part of this one is just being that curious about that emotion. And so when I first did this, one of the really interesting things that I did was when I was asking the question, like what brought you anxiety about the purchase? And like this one guy was just like, well, you know, like there was this one thing that really stood out, and it was the guarantee. And so when he was on the free trial page, he knew it was free, but he was like, well, if I sign up, put up time into this, I want to be able to get that money back in case, you know, it's just not the right fit for me. And so that was something that we immediately wrote down, and we were able to put this like front, right, left, and center on the pages that we had where people were in that consideration set mindset, and we're able to increase that conversion rate right off the bat. And so when you're looking and hearing these responses, just try and keep that open mind out for where are people struggling and how could you smooth along that process for them. And so that's about it for the core emotion of this. And I want to dive back into the slides here to go through a couple tips. So the first one is record these conversations. Don't make that rookie mistake like me where the first couple like switch interviews you've done don't have that, and you're just fiercely writing notes about everything you think is relevant, and then you miss out on so much, not just the stuff that the customer is saying, but you also can't, when you're going through the questions, think of comments like for that anxiety, like why did that bring you anxiety? Was there something more to it? And so just when you're doing these conversations, my one caveat is just be really curious about that person, and you'll start asking a little more detailed questions to dive into specific problems where people really give you some valuable insight. So now we're at step 3, we're over halfway here, and I want to give you the gold mine. So this is really where you start becoming like a little miner out of the pickaxe and going through those recordings, and you're trying to find where is that golden nugget that I can burn down and make really, really valuable for my business. And so first step, like listen to each of these customer recordings, but don't just listen to them. Have an active listening role where you're looking for these 6 special elements. So those 6 key elements I recommend looking out for are the struggling moments, the motivations behind why people got to that situation and what really made them furious about it, and the driving forces. So the driving forces I want you to pay special attention to, because in marketing, these are the core emotions that really are like why people switch from using one solution to the other. And so if you're using advertising, like this is like, that's the gold mine that I always kind of go to. And then when it comes down to the perceived value, you're just seeing like, what was that greater life you envisioned? And maybe it's a little bit different than what you had in mind in your marketing. And so once you know the perceived value, then it is really just a matter of like, can we communicate that a little bit better? Because when you are selling products and marketing them, sometimes it's easy to oversell on the perceived value. And so that's why you're also looking for what was that experienced value for that recent customer, and did it line up? And if it didn't, you're going to find that there's this big value gap. And so that's a big problem that you definitely don't want to have if you're overselling your product and making it sound better than it is. And so the last one is just the existing solutions considered. And so we'll dive a little bit more into each one of these ones. And I'll give you the little templates and how I kind of work through each of these ones. So for the struggling moments, you're looking for like that core situation. And they'll most likely bring that up at the beginning, like, well, you know, my boss had this deadline for like, maybe it's a quarterly goal of generating a specific number of leads, and they just haven't been hitting them for the past few months. And so that's a really big struggling moment where they're also looking for that a social job to hire another product or solution for, because they don't want to look bad when it comes to their boss. They need the functional job, which is getting the lead goal. And so there's really a lot of other things that they're going to slowly unpack for you. And then when it comes to the motivations, so like, what were they trying to accomplish with that new solution? Why did they even look for your solution? What caught their eye when it came to that? And so you'll probably find like, well, I wanted to try and build out something on my own and automate, let's say, lead gen. Or in my case, I wanted to hire gum because my breath smelled bad. And then we go into the driving forces, which is the holy grail. I get excited when I find these ones. And you're looking for those core emotions where people feel really upset about something, or they're just like, this takes too long. Every time I have to do a monthly report, it takes hours and hours of this mind-numbing work. And then they're like, oh, I could just use databox.com to do something like this really, really quickly. And I don't even have to check it. It's just like every single week or hour, it's refreshing all the feeds. And so it just saves you all that time. And then we go to the perceived value. So this is really not too much here, but you're looking for like that better life of why they buy the product. And one thing that you should definitely note when it comes to selling a product is you're never selling the product. You are selling the outcome of the product. For instance, if I was back at Vidyard, I would never be selling video marketing software where I host videos. No, I make people a lot better at marketing by making sure that they have the right videos that can definitely make them communicate better to the audience, engage them in much better ways, and definitely make their brand look more cutting edge and communicating in ways that people actually like communicating. And so you're selling that core outcome. And then the experience value, you're just seeing like, did our product line up? How was it? Were you able to retain and acquire and engage those customers? And then the existing solutions. And so when you're going through this one, just look for like, maybe it's not the next SaaS product. Like if you're comparing user-like to intercom, it might be something like email that pops up in the existing solutions. And so you need to look at that and say, hey, how is this problem currently being solved? Because there might be some really interesting, meaty problems there. And so you could definitely uncover them. And pro tip, write everything out in the customer's words, not yours, please. Because it's so easy to summarize what you think everyone's trying to say and miss out on the way the customer is telling you what it is about. And so the next fun thing I'm going to share with you, not in the panelist little chat there, but with everyone here, is the customer data spreadsheet. So whenever you are doing this, it's pretty hard sometimes to keep track of everything. And so I recommend going into this spreadsheet to just try and keep you sane And you can look at the core struggling moments here, the motivations, the driving forces, basically everything we went through. And then at the end as well, you could definitely just have the functional, the emotional, and the social jobs, and highlight every single one of these insights for each of the customers that you've interviewed. So if you're up for the challenge, what I would expect in the email that would hit my inbox is 10 customers that you have talked to and you've gone through this whole process for. And so that's what I'm looking for if you are up for the challenge. And so to dive back into the webinar, I want you to be able to apply this stuff. And so I want you, at the end of this, once you put everything into the customer data spreadsheet, to focus on the functional job, the emotional job, the social job of why people hire your product. Because once you get those down, it's going to be so much easier to market it. And I feel like I've been saying it's going to be so much easier, but now I'm actually going to share with you how you could actually apply this stuff and make it super actionable. And so, once again, let's put this in insights. Last step, here we go. And so where can you apply all this stuff? I created another document. I feel like I'm just like document spamming you, but they're really fun documents. I love making them. So here's the next one, which is the Jobs to Be Done marketing breakdown document. And so here you can, if you know the core emotional drivers of your target audience, you can start breaking down like what are the top 3 ones that people are doing. Are they feeling overwhelmed or undervalued, frustrated? And then you could also go a step further and say like, well, what do I want my audience to feel when they see our product? And so you could definitely break it down even further and say, okay, this is what the core job, emotional job that people want to hire whenever it comes to our product. And so then they can definitely go a step further in marketing and say, okay, let's make sure we're emphasizing those values. And what is really misunderstood by a lot of companies is it's not just like saying it through your copy. You can communicate all of these things through your colors, your images, even your fonts, as crazy as that sounds. And so what I just put here is a couple examples of like, if you want optimism, it's like, well, go use yellow. And like, there's tons of documents out there will tell you like, what is the general consensus on what colors make your audience feel certain things. But there's, I won't dive into that for this class since that's a whole nother bag of worms. But same thing with images, like optimism, like show someone at that outcome, solving that pain point, being like happy about solving their main problem and showing those case studies of people solving that problem over and over again. And so when I kind of go through the customer data spreadsheet, I break down what, like, let's say struggling moments did people have 5 times or 10 times, or did they have the most out of all of these core problems? And maybe there's a overarching situation where it's the end of the month and people are crunching those numbers and it's frustrating because you have someone who's highly skilled and they're doing like drag and drop copy and pasting, and it just like it puts them to tears at the end of the day. And so you're looking for those situations of like infuriating pain, and if you can find some correlations where it's like, okay, people are kind of all along the same lines here, this is when you can start to kind of generalize a little bit and group them to at least give some numbers to it. Even the same thing with the motivations, key driving forces. You're just looking for like, what are your customers feeling as a group? And so you're starting to analyze those core situations that drove those recent customers to make that core switch. And then at the bottom here, just highlighting like, what are those main functional, emotional, and even social jobs to be done for your product? And you can write out everything here, but it doesn't mean anything unless you actually test this stuff. And so given my background in advertising and spending millions of dollars on advertising, and I love it, I always like to start with ads because you could definitely see very quickly, a lot more quickly than, let's say, SEO, like what copy resonates best with your audience. And so whether that's remarketing or any number of different campaigns you can run. You could just start to test, like, okay, put together some headlines that seeing if they hit on those emotional, those social and functional jobs and what really resonates best with your audience, and just test this. There's really no secret when it comes to a lot of things in marketing. It's just, are you executing on this? Are you testing new things? And are you going to be learning from this? And so that's about it when it comes to applying this, at least in my slide deck. But I wanted to go through with everyone here and see, like, where can you apply jobs to be done in your role? And so I will write down like some other items here too that you could definitely improve. So I'd like to just open it up to everyone here. Like, where can you apply jobs to be done in your role? I'm curious. Okay. And so next, we're just going to quickly recap and put this all together. And so there was really just 4 steps that we wanted to cover. So there's the sending the emails, which I want you to send maybe even 3 today to just get some momentum if you're going to complete the challenge. And then there's doing the switch interviews and understanding the main core driving factors when it came to why people chose your product, and then how to actually extract and get all the golden nuggets out of those interviews. And then the last part is just putting that insight into action across your whole marketing strategy. And so if you can do that, it's extremely powerful. Just as when we went through like the user, like the intercom example, you want to innovate on the pain that needs to be solved because it's product agnostic. And so if you're innovating on live chat software, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out for you in the long run because you're competing on the product, the features. And if you're marketing those, then it's, you're at this like arms race of monkeys, of other software competitors who are all in that same space. Whereas if you're innovating on the pain and you're marketing the pain that needs to be solved, it's a winning strategy right there. And so to recap, I think I already did that actually. Why I'm kind of going through this right now with you actually with the jobs be done approach is because I friggin' love SaaS marketing. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I have spent a lot of time at the more traditional marketing-led approach where you're so focused on generating leads, marketing qualified leads. And whether it's through content upgrades, content promotion, getting people to download those guides, I saw this new, really quickly growing side of growing SaaS companies, which is the product-led approach. So if you have a free trial or freemium model, this is going to be the best course you can take on how to really turn that SaaS product into a growth engine and leverage your product to get more customers. So if you're interested, just check that link or go to the conversionxl website to learn more. But I would, be super curious if you're interested in the learning from that course. And so I wanted to thank everyone for watching. I apologize for those technical difficulties. My computer doesn't like me. But if you want to just ask questions, I'd love to open it up to Q&A. I know we're 2 minutes over right now, but I can stick around to answer any questions that you have. Okay. So if you have any questions, just make sure you put them in the chat box. I think the Q&A box, I can't really see the answers on that one as well. Yeah, Yasmin, definitely agree. The Just Be Done approach is really kind of combining that marketing, the product strategy, and product marketing. It all gels together really, really well. And that's why it's really, really powerful, because you don't have the marketers trying to just get the best conversion rates and focusing on promotion and the product people saying, okay, let's just build the features. It's like all combines because the pain that the customer is feeling is really what combines everything in this one kind of guided approach. So that's super powerful. Yeah, so Eduardo, good question. Do you see any difference in the application of this on enterprise high-ticket SaaS solutions? So that's, yeah, good question. I'm just trying to think through it a little bit more myself. And so when it comes to applying this on the enterprise side, there really isn't too much of a difference, especially when it comes to jobs be done, because you're innovating on the pain that these enterprises have to solve. For instance, like if you're Slack, you're innovating on communication, and can you communicate better as a team internally? And that's what Slack's really trying to focus on. And so regardless of how big the customer is, people still have the pain regardless. And so it doesn't really change too much. However, one thing that is different is if we go back to the other side for the product-led strategy for SaaS, if you do have like an enterprise high-ticket SaaS solution where let's say it's over, let's just ballpark, like $10,000 a year, where it's like you probably want to hop on the phone for someone to at least explain like how your product works, because it's got a really high lifetime value on that. And so there's a good incentive for you to reach out, as well as it comes down to the go-to-market strategy that you have. And so if your go-to-market strategy is differentiated, where your product's highly specialized, like a free trial or freemium models is probably not going to work out for you. So that's super long-winded answer, but just let me know if that answered it. Okay, perfect. And so, Raul, if you don't have many customers for this, you could definitely start asking people who have like, okay, I don't actually have a good response for that, because if you don't have good response or have those recent customers, then it's, yeah, not as effective, but you can still do it with the current ones you have. And so if you don't have 10, just start with, if you have 2 or 3, like if you start at the beginning applying this, it's going to be really effective for you to at least start learning those core functional, emotional, and social jobs from the get-go. And so, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily limit it by numbers. For the competition, yeah, it's a little different for the challenge, but yeah, definitely go ahead with it with as many customers as you have. All right. So does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. So I don't see anything else, but what I will let you know is that we'll be sending you the recording, and in the recording or the page where we'll have the webinar, we'll also have the link to the slides as well. So yes, thank you, Yasmin. That's really nice. This is the first webinar, so I'm glad it was awesome. All right. Have a great day, everyone.